Well, we have some breaking news this hour on the deadly fire that ripped through a crowded bar in Switzerland on New Year's Eve. Have a look at this. These are pictures posted on social media. Swiss officials say the fire appears to have started from sparklers put on bottles of champagne that were too close to the ceiling of the building. 40 people were killed and 119 were injured. John Northcott is the co-host of CBC Radio's World Report, and he's on this story for us once again, joining us from London. John, tell us more about what the investigators are saying today.
Natasha, we are getting some significant, important and stark numbers in terms of the victims of this tragedy. A tragedy that officials here or in Switzerland are saying is the worst in their country's history. We know that there have been some 40 killed in this. What we also understand, though, is that the identification of all of those may not be complete. This, then, they've already said, could take a long time. When it comes to those that are injured, 119 is the number that we are looking at. That was up from around 100 and then 150, now 119. But what we are also hearing from officials are some stark numbers around the condition of those individuals. 50 of them, 50 of those 119 have had to be moved to other countries simply because they overwhelmed the burn units in Switzerland. That number really to come into burn units in any jurisdiction is remarkable. Switzerland, though, not a big country. So what they found is that they were taking them to hospitals in Switzerland and then either putting them in medically induced comas or simply stabilizing them because they weren't in a position to be able to treat the burns, and then having them moved and airlifted to other jurisdictions. Medical personnel, we've been led to believe, are coming in from other countries as well into Switzerland to help with the situation there. Also getting a sense of the scope, the international scope that we're talking about here in terms of the victims. Large number of them Swiss, not to be expected in Switzerland, of course, but 71 of them Swiss, 14 French, a number of Italians, Serbs, Bosnians, a Pole, someone from Luxembourg, and then there are the unidentified, and they are reaching out to other countries, including the Philippines, Romania, and Turkey. So there's an indication there that they would be either in touch with relatives for travel information for certain people, identification, either documents or photographs or dental records. And in fact, what they say is that this investigation is led by a team that was put together to investigate the deaths of Swiss citizens in the tsunami in 2004. So we're talking about police, forensics, medical personnel, and dental personnel. So that's why they'd be reaching out to those other countries to try and make the positive identification. Now, we're also getting clarity in terms of what was the cause of this. This is a long-term investigation, no question about that. However, what eyewitnesses reported, that the champagne bottles with they've been called sparklers. They call them candle sparklers in the translation from the French, but very powerful sparklers in these champagne bottles carried through the club, which is something that the club was known for. But in this case, one got too close to the ceiling and then set the ceiling on fire, and they say very rapidly spread. And that ties in with what fire experts have been saying right around the world in terms of the ability, what they call a flashover, for everything to become superheated very quickly and then effectively spontaneously combust throughout the entire place, sucking up all the oxygen, putting a tremendous amount of carbon dioxide into the air, but carbon monoxide into the air, and also creating inability for people to escape. Though we also understand there was an emergency exit, but whether or not people in the rush, in the smoke, in the darkness, in the terror, whether they were able to find that emergency exit, what we understand is many were struggling up a narrow flight of stairs. Again, people becoming trapped, people dying. But with this flash, some people may have died, in fact, instantly. And again, horrific injuries that are being reported and being treated right around Europe right now.
John, let me ask you about the victims and the kind of treatment they're receiving.
This is a situation, Natasha, where it is a very long-term proposition. There is no question about that. And as part of the ongoing treatment that they'll be receiving in hospitals, there will also be a situation where the investigation is not only continuing with identifications, not only looking further into the cause of the fire, but there will also be a potential for a criminal investigation in this. And again, that's longer term. There will have to be evidence gathered, forensic investigators just really now getting into the club today. So that will be a long-term process, whether or not there is some further criminal culpability involved in that. But This is, as I say, horrific for the people of Switzerland, for so many people around Europe, but for people who are in the hospitality industry, are involved in firefighting, are involved in fire safety. This is a case that will be watched and studied for years to come in the hope of trying to save lives that have been lost in this particular tragedy. Natasha?
Co-host of CBC Radio's World Report, John Northcott, joining us from London. Thank you, John.